I stared at the screen of my smartphone, my hand unsteady. The numbers weren't just low, they were a void, a perfect, digital, terrifying zero. I tapped the refresh icon on my bank's app, a useless gesture. The little wheel spun, and the zero returned, mocking me. "That can't be," I whispered to the empty living room. "That's just not possible." My savings account, $50,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was my life. 40 years of overtime at the plant, of packing my own lunch, of mending clothes I should have thrown away. Every penny was a memory, a sacrifice, and it was gone. Vanished. A chill, colder than the November air outside my window, crept up my spine. This wasn't a glitch. This was theft. And I had a sickening, immediate certainty of who had done it. I looked up from the phone, my gaze landing on the sofa across from me. They were still there, my son and his wife, basking in the afterglow of the dinner they'd insisted on cooking for me. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. My son, Dominic, let out a short, cruel laugh. It was a sound I'd never heard from him, not in his entire 35 years. It was the laugh of a stranger. "Something wrong, Pop?" he asked, a smirk playing on his lips. He was leaning back, one arm draped over the shoulder of his wife, Tabitha. Tabitha just watched me. Her eyes were cold, calculating. She held a wine glass, swirling the last of the red I'd bought for their reconciliation dinner. She hadn't said a word, but her silence was an endorsement. My money," I stammered, holding up the phone. "It's gone. Dominic, my savings, $50,000. It's all gone." Dominic's smirk widened into a full-blown grin, a grotesque mask on the face of the boy I'd taught to ride a bike. "We know, Pop. We moved it." "Moved it?" I felt the blood drain from my face. "What are you talking about? You can't just move my money." "We needed this more than you, old man," Dominic said, his voice casual, as if he were discussing the weather. "You're retired. You're set. You've got the house, your pension. What do you need with all that cash sitting around, anyway? It's better in the hands of people who are actually going to use it," Tabitha added, her first words since the reveal. Her voice was like chipped ice. "We have plans. Big plans." "Plans?" I was shaking now, a tremor starting in my hands and spreading. "You stole my life savings, and you call it plans?" "Call it what you want," Dominic shrugged, standing up. He was a big man, and he used his size to intimidate, looming over me. "We see it as an investment. In us. In your family." You're not my family," I whispered, the words tasting like ash. "Not if you can do this." He laughed again, that same horrifying, empty sound. "Oh, we're family, Pop. And you're going to see just how much we are." My instincts, buried under decades of fatherly love and willful ignorance, finally screamed to the surface. I wasn't just a victim. I was a fool, and I was in danger. My hand, of its own accord, tightened on the old leather wallet in my back pocket. It was a reflex. It held my driver's license, $20 in cash, and the debit card linked to the now empty account. It was useless, but it was mine. "Then you won't mind what happens next," I muttered, my voice raspy. Dominic and Tabitha looked at each other, sharing a private joke. "What are you going to do, Pop?" Dominic sneered. "Call the cops? Tell them your favorite son took his inheritance a little early?" "He's just a sad old man," Tabitha said, standing to join her husband. "He won't do anything." As if summoned by my words, a thunderous crash shook the entire house. It wasn't a knock. It was an impact, like a battering ram hitting the front door. Dominic and Tabitha froze, their smug expressions vanishing, replaced by pure, sudden panic. Another crash, louder this time. The sound of splintering wood. And then, the front door, the one I'd painted just last spring, was thrown open with such force that it slammed into the hallway wall, ripping one hinge clean from the frame. To understand how we got to this moment, me, a 68-year-old widower, and my son, a thief, staring in terror at the wreckage of my front door. I need to go back. Back to this morning. The phone had rung at 9:02 a.m. I knew the time because I was watching a documentary on migratory birds. The caller ID flashed, Dominic. My heart did a stupid little jump. I hadn't heard from him in 3 months, not since our last terrible fight. Hello? I'd answered, trying to sound casual, not desperate. Pop? Hey, it's me. His voice was different, soft, apologetic. All the sharp, angry edges were gone. Listen, I know we haven't talked, and I'm sorry, Pop. I really am. I sat down. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. For months it had been nothing but shouting matches, demands for money, accusations that I was hoarding the inheritance my late wife, Evelyn, had left me. I'm here, Dominic. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. That's just it. I want to make things right, he'd said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Tabitha and we want to invite you over for dinner. No, wait, better. We want to come to your place tonight. We'll cook. We'll bring everything. You just sit back and relax. It's time to fix things between us, Pop. It's time to be a family again. It's time to be a family again. Those words were the key to my house, to my heart, to my bank account. My father's heart, the one he and Tabitha were about to stomp on, swelled with a pathetic, blinding hope. Dominic, I'd like that. I'd like that very much. Great. We'll see you at 6, Pop, and I love you. The line clicked. The bird documentary was still on, but I wasn't watching. Maybe he'd finally reflected. Maybe he'd finally realized the pain he'd caused. What a fool I was. I spent the entire afternoon getting ready, bustling around the house with an energy I hadn't felt since Evelyn's funeral. I dusted. I vacuumed. I even polished the good silver, the set we only used for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I showered and stood in front of my closet, trying to see myself through their eyes. I didn't want to look like the sad old man Tabitha had called me during our last fight. I pulled out the dark maroon polo shirt. The one Dominic used to say made me look like a successful businessman when he was a kid. I paired it with my best tan slacks. I went to my dresser and opened the top drawer, fumbling past old tie clips and cufflinks until my fingers found it. The watch Evelyn gave me for our 25th anniversary. A simple, elegant timepiece. I strapped it to my wrist, the familiar weight a comfort. As I combed my thinning gray hair in the bathroom mirror, I remembered Evelyn's words on her deathbed. She'd been weak, but her eyes were still sharp, still seeing right through me. Warren, she'd whispered, grabbing my hand. Children sometimes lose their way, but true love always brings them back home. I'd clung to those words. I'd made them my mantra during the 3 darkest months of my life, when my own son threatened to cut off all contact, to keep my grandchildren Mason and Abigail away from me if I didn't hand over my savings. Evelyn's words gave me strength, but I'd misinterpreted them. She wasn't just talking about love. She was talking about a home, and mine was about to be invaded. They arrived at 6 o'clock on the dot. The doorbell chimed, and I practically ran to it, the stupid, hopeful grin plastered on my face. "Pop!" Dominic beamed, pulling me into a hug that felt almost real. He was carrying a bouquet of red carnations, my favorite flowers, a detail he'd remembered. The manipulation was a masterpiece. "They're beautiful, son." "Thank you." "Hi, Warren." Tabitha followed him in, carrying a heavy grocery bag. She even gave me a quick, dry peck on the cheek. "I hope you're hungry. We're making your favorite, homemade Southern BBQ ribs." The next 2 hours were a blur of calculated charm. It was just like the old days, back when Dominic and his family used to visit every Sunday. We sat in the kitchen while they cooked, the house filling with the rich, smoky aroma of the ribs. They asked all the right questions. "How's your health, Pop? You're looking good? Have you been in touch with your friends at the retiree club? How's old Frank doing? Hey, I like that new haircut, Warren. It suits you." During dinner, Dominic told me about his new venture, a small digital advertising firm he wanted to expand. His eyes shone with that old passion, the fire I remembered from when he was a young man, dreaming of building his own business. It was all a performance. Every word, every smile, every remember when. And I was the star-struck audience, eating it all up. It was after the main course, as Tabitha was clearing the plates, that Dominic set the final piece of the trap. He served the peach cobbler, from a store-bought box, I noticed, but I didn't care, and put on his most serious, heartfelt expression. "Pop," he said, his voice dropping. He sat next to me at the dining table, reaching for my hand. "Forgive me for everything that happened these last few months." I looked at him, my heart aching. "Dominic." "No, let me finish," he said, his eyes welling up. "I know I was too harsh on you. I know I said things I shouldn't have." He paused, squeezing my hand. "It's just, the business is struggling, Pop. We're in so much debt, I'm failing." A tear, a single, perfect actor's tear, rolled down his cheek. My heart completely melted. "And when Mom passed," he continued, his voice cracking, I thought you could help us more. I didn't handle it right. I was a jerk. I'm so sorry." "Oh, my son," I said, my own eyes blurring. I put my other hand over his. "It's okay. We're family. Your mother and I. We saved this money for my retirement, yes. But if you're really in trouble, we can talk. We can talk about a fair loan, something proper." The smile he gave me. It was blinding. It was the smile of victory. My family was healing, or so I thought. It was after dessert that everything changed. The warmth evaporated, as if a switch had been flipped. Dominic and Tabitha exchanged a look. It was brief, almost imperceptible, but I caught it. A look I couldn't interpret at the time, but now I understand perfectly. It was the look of two predators about to corner their prey. Dominic cleared his throat and took his phone out of his pocket. "Pop, before we talk about that loan, there's something you need to do for us," he said. His voice was no longer pleading. It was demanding. "What is it, son?" "I need you to transfer the money tonight," he said. "Tonight?" "Dominic, it's after 9 o'clock. The banks are closed. We can go first thing in the morning, talk to the manager." "No, Pop," Tabitha interrupted, her smile gone, her eyes hard. "It has to be now." "All of it?" I asked, a shiver running down my spine. "You said you were struggling." You don't need all 50,000 at once. Yes, we do, Dominic said, standing up. The charming son was gone, replaced by the angry, desperate man I remembered. It's urgent. We have an investment opportunity, and it expires at midnight. It's the only way to save the business. Tabitha stood up from the table and approached me, her own phone in her hand. You have the banking app on your cell, right, Warren? It's easy, just a few clicks. You send it to us, and we're all good. We can finally get back to normal. My paternal instinct was at war with my gut. Something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. But this was Dominic, my son. Dominic, $50,000. It's a lot of money, I said, my voice trembling. I tried to appeal to the boy I'd raised. Your mother and I, we took decades to save that. I worked double shifts at the textile mill for 10 years. I took on extra landscaping jobs on weekends. I sold my old pickup truck, the one I loved, when you had that medical emergency as a child. This money, it represents a lifetime of sacrifice. Dominic sighed, an impatient, exasperated sound. He sat next to me on the sofa, taking my hands. His touch was no longer comforting. It was cold. Pop, don't you trust me? I'm your son. I would never hurt you. He paused, and his voice hardened. Besides, technically, part of this money should be mine. From Mom's inheritance. There it was. The real reason for the dinner. The flowers. The fake tears. He hadn't come to reconcile. He'd come to finish the job. Dominic, we've talked about this, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, trying to pull my hands away. Your mother left everything to me because she knew I would manage it well. When I pass away, you and your brother Mitchell will inherit everything equally. But while I'm alive, this money is mine. Dominic's mask of civility didn't just slip. He tore it off. He jumped up and began pacing my small living room like a caged tiger. I can't wait for you to die, Pop. I need the money now. My business is going bankrupt. I have debts up to my neck. They're threatening to seize our house. Don't you understand? Your own son needs you. Tabitha came up from behind, placing a hand on my shoulder. Her touch made me shudder. Walter, let's be realistic, she said, her voice a low, reasonable purr. You're 68 years old. What do you need so much money for? You paid off your house. You raised your kids. It's time to help the next generation. Plus, Dominic added, stopping right in front of me, his eyes blazing. If you don't help us now, I won't be able to keep bringing the grandkids to visit you. The emotional blackmail hit me like a physical slap. Mason and Abigail, my light, my life. Tabitha thinks, he continued, his voice dripping with venom, that you're not a good influence on them. With all these selfish attitudes, she's probably right. The threat of never seeing my grandchildren again. It broke me. I could feel my resolve crumbling. But something inside me, a voice that sounded a lot like Evelyn's, whispered, Don't you dare, Warren. Don't you dare give in to this. All right, I murmured, my voice hoarse. But not all of it. I can transfer 10,000 tonight, just 10. The rest we can talk about when you show me a real business plan. With numbers. With guarantees. Dominic and Tabitha looked at each other again. That same silent, predatory communication. This time the message was clear. The old man is tougher than we thought. Time for the final push. That's not enough, Pop, Dominic said, his voice dangerously calm. He crossed his arms, staring me down. It's either the 50,000 tonight or tomorrow. I go to a lawyer to challenge Mom's will. My world reeled. What? I have witnesses, he said, lying through his teeth. Witnesses who can testify that she wasn't in her right mind when she made it. That you pressured her, coerced her, to leave you everything. That's not true, I gasped. Darnell, you know that's a lie. Your mother was perfectly lucid until the very end. The judges won't know that, Tabitha intervened, a cruel little smile on her lips. And legal processes are long, Warren. They're expensive. Eventually, all your precious 50,000 will be spent on lawyers anyway. It's better if you just give it to us nicely. Now. I felt the walls of my own house closing in on me. They had planned this. The dinner, the apologies, the tears, all an elaborate performance to bring me to this exact moment of vulnerability. Then I remembered Evelyn's other words, the ones she'd said just before she told me she loved me for the last time. Walter, she'd gripped my arm, her eyes wide. There are wolves that come in sheep's clothing, even in family. Protect yourself, my love. Protect what we built. I had thought she meant external scammers. I never, not in a million years, imagined she meant our own son. And what if I don't agree? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, almost unrecognizable as my own. What happens if I refuse to give you my money? Dominic moved so close I could feel his breath on my face. It smelled sour, of wine and greed. Then you're going to lose a lot more than money, Pop. You'll lose your family, your grandkids, your reputation. I can make everyone think you've gotten old and selfish, that you have mental issues. Your brother Mitchell already suspects your strange behavior, Tabitha added, a shameless, venomous lie. We told him how you've been acting lately. He agrees it's better for the money to be in younger hands. That was the lie that broke my heart. Mitchell, my other son, the honest one, the lawyer, the one who took after his mother. He would never agree to this, but the manipulation was so elaborate, so cruel, that for a moment, I doubted everything. With trembling hands, I picked up my smartphone from the coffee table. My brand new smartphone, the one Mitchell had bought me last month so we could video chat. Dominic and Tabitha smiled, a shared, victorious smile. I knew you'd understand, Pop, Dominic said, his voice dripping with false sweetness again. This is what's best for everyone, for the family. I unlocked the phone. I opened the banking app. I stared at the balance. 50,000 $50,000, the fruit of a lifetime of honest work. I looked up. They were watching me like vultures. Dominic was leaning over my shoulder. Tabitha was perched on the arm of the sofa. Okay, I said. What's the account number? Enter my full name, Dominic murmured, his voice hushed with excitement. Dominic Andrew Hastings. And the account number. Tabitha, give it to him. Tabitha read a series of numbers from her phone. I typed them in, my fingers moving slowly. Is this your account, Dominic? I asked, a flicker of suspicion rising. It's a lot of numbers. Of course it is, Pop, he replied, a little too quickly. It's my business account. I need to make the investment immediately. Just type it in. I noticed he avoided my gaze. It was something he'd done since he was a child, right before he told a lie. My fingers moved slowly across the screen. Every number I typed felt like a nail in my own coffin, a betrayal of my life, of Evelyn's memory. I entered the amount, $50,000. I looked at the confirm transfer button. It glowed green, a beacon of my own destruction. But then, just as I was about to confirm, Just as their eyes were fixed on that green button, I did something. My thumb moved, but not to the button. It moved to the bottom of the screen, to the menu icon. I tapped it. Then I tapped Account Summary. Then I tapped Transaction History. Then I tapped Main Menu again. My fingers were flying across the screen, a flurry of theatrical movement. I was just navigating, tapping, swiping, but to them, to their greedy, unobservant eyes, it looked like I was working, confirming security protocols, finalizing the transfer. They were so focused on the idea of the money, they didn't see the reality of my actions. After a good 30 seconds of this digital charade, I took a deep, shaky breath. Done, I murmured. I tapped the power button and the screen went black. I quickly closed the app and locked the phone. It's finished. The release of tension in the room was explosive. Yes! Dominic jumped up, letting out a whoop of joy. He grabbed me and hugged me, a crushing, breathless hug. I knew I could count on you, Pop. You're the best father in the world. You saved us. You saved everything. His joy seemed so genuine, so overwhelming, that for a terrifying second, I almost convinced myself I had actually done it, that I had done the right thing. Tabitha came over and kissed my cheek, her lips cold. Thank you, Walter, seriously. This is going to change our lives forever. Her smile had a sinister quality, a sharpness at the edges that gave me chills. She wasn't just happy, she was triumphant. Now, Dominic said, rubbing his hands together, suddenly all business. I think we should probably get going. It's late. You're leaving already? I asked, feigning disappointment. So soon? I thought we could have some coffee. Talk more about the family, the grandkids. Another day, Pop, Dominic replied, already grabbing his jacket from the back of the chair. He didn't even turn to look at me. We're really tired, and tomorrow is going to be a very, very busy day. A new beginning, Tabitha said, her eyes glued to her phone, her thumb typing furiously. She had a grin on her face she couldn't hide. She was probably checking their account. It wouldn't be there yet. Transfers take time, I reasoned. They'd get in the car, expect to see it pending. Maybe it would take an hour, maybe it would take until morning. I had bought myself time, but I had no idea how little. I walked them to the door, the one they hadn't broken yet. I forced the biggest, most relieved smile of my life. Have a beautiful night, I said as I watched them walk away, arm in arm, toward their expensive SUV, a car I now realized my money was supposed to pay for. Dominic didn't even say goodbye with a hug. He just gave me a quick wave over his shoulder. You're a lifesaver, Pop, he called out. The second I closed and locked the door, my smile vanished. My legs felt like jelly. I ran, stumbling, to my bedroom. I didn't turn on the light. I went straight to my nightstand and yanked open the bottom drawer. There, under a pile of old paperbacks, was my old cell phone. The one I'd used for years before Mitchell bought me the new one. It was a beat-up 5-year-old model, but the battery was still charged, and it still had the banking app installed. And crucially, it was already logged in. My fingers, now shaking so badly I could barely control them, tapped the icon. The app opened. My checking account, 200, my pension, and my savings account. I held my breath. 50,000 woners, intact. I sank onto the edge of my bed, the phone clutched in my hand as if it were a lifesaver. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. The deception had worked. my little theatrical performance. They had bought it. They had fallen into my trap, so blinded by their own greed that they didn't even notice I hadn't done a thing. They hadn't gotten a single cent. My relief was a flash, a spark that died as fast as it was born. It was replaced by a cold, dreadful certainty. They weren't stupid, not that stupid. Tabitha was checking her phone. She was refreshing the app. She was waiting for the pending transfer notification. It would never come. And when they realized the transfer had never processed, that I had tricked them, they would come back. And this time, they wouldn't be asking. They wouldn't be bringing flowers or making fake apologies. They would come back with rage. I sat on the bed, my hand shaking, staring at the phone. What should I do? Call the police? Tell them what? My son tried to scam me, but I scammed him back. And now I'm scared? It sounded insane. Call Mitchell? My other son, the lawyer? What could he do? He was 3 states away on a business trip. Change my bank passwords. Yes, that was smart. I fumbled with the old phone, my mind racing. But before I could even navigate to the security menu, I heard it. The sound of a car engine revving high and angry, the squeal of tires on pavement, headlights slashed across my bedroom wall, bright and blinding. A car door slammed, then another. Violent, pounding footsteps on my driveway. They were back. I heard the sound of my front lawn's ceramic gnome, one Evelyn had loved, being kicked, shattering into pieces. Then a fist hammered on my front door. Not a knock, a blow. "Pop, open this door, right now!" Dominic's voice. It was unrecognizable. It was a roar, a sound of pure, primal rage. "We know you lied to us!" Tabitha screamed, her voice a high, hysterical shriek. "The money! It didn't hit the account! Don't be ridiculous, Walter! Open up!" I scrambled off the bed, my heart in my throat. I ran, not to the front door, but to the master bathroom at the back of my bedroom. I slammed the door and locked it. A flimsy, hollow core door with a privacy lock. It wouldn't hold for more than a second. The banging on the front door was so loud, the whole house was vibrating. "Pop! I'm not kidding! Open this door!" I grabbed my old phone, the $50,000 still glowing on its screen. My hands were shaking so hard, I dropped it. It skittered across the tile floor. I lunged for it, my knee cracking on the tile. I heard a new sound, a crash. The sound of breaking glass. They had smashed the kitchen window. "I'm going to teach you not to mess with me, old man!" Dominic yelled, his voice now inside my house. His heavy, furious footsteps echoed on the hardwood floor of the hallway, heading straight for my bedroom. I fumbled with the phone, my thumb jabbing at the screen. I hit the call icon and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? The operator's voice was calm, a lifeline from another world. "Please," I whispered, my voice choked with terror. "My address is 435 Pinecrest Drive. My son is breaking into my house. He's trying to rob me. He's acting violently. Please hurry." "Sir, are you in a safe location?" "I'm in the bathroom," I whispered. "But he's here. He's at the bedroom door." The banging started on my bedroom door. Heavy, solid blows. Dominic was using his shoulder, his body, as a battering ram. "Pop! Get out of there! Don't make me do something I'll regret!" "Darnell!" I yelled. "Please, this isn't you! Stop before you do something terrible!" "You turned me into this!" he roared back, his voice full of venom. "With your selfishness, your greed, this money should be mine. Mom would have wanted me to have it." The wood of my bedroom door groaned. It splintered. "Harder, Dom!" I heard Tabitha scream, encouraging him. "You're almost there! Get him!" At that moment, in the cold, dark bathroom, I understood. The Dominic I had raised, the sweet boy who made me Father's Day cards. He was gone. He had died long ago. In his place was a stranger, a monster with his face but with a completely rotten heart. My bedroom door gave way with a crash that made me scream. The operator was still on the line. "Sir? Sir, what was that sound?" "He's in," I whispered. He broke down the bedroom door. "Officers are en route, sir. They are 2 minutes out. Can you stay on the line?" "I don't know." The heavy footsteps approached the bathroom. The doorknob rattled violently. "Last chance, Pop," Dominic yelled, his voice deadly calm now. "Come out nicely. Give me access to your account, or I'm going to have to take you out by force." "No," I whispered, surprising myself with the firmness in my own voice. "I will not give you my money, Dominic. Not like this." The silence that followed was more terrifying than all his screams combined. I heard him walk away. His steps headed away from the bathroom, toward the hallway. Had he given up? Had he come to his senses? No. I heard the unmistakable sound of my hall closet being yanked open, the closet where I kept the toolbox. He wasn't going to get the toolbox. He was going to get the sledgehammer. I heard him return. His steps were heavier, slower, more deliberate. "Pop," he said, his voice muffled by the thin door. The calm was gone, replaced by a chilling, cold rage. "I hope you reconsider your decision, because I just brought the sledgehammer from the garage." The operator on the phone sucked in her breath. "Sir, the officers are on your street. They're at the corner. Just hold on." "Pop," Dominic's voice again. "I'm counting to 3. 1, 2. He didn't wait for 3. The first blow of the sledgehammer against the bathroom door resonated like thunder in my ears. It wasn't a kick. It was an explosion. The wood instantly splintered, a huge, jagged crack appearing right at eye level. Through the hole, I could see his eye, Darnell's eye, wild, red, and crazed. "Darnell, stop!" I screamed, pressing myself against the back wall of the shower. "The police! They're on their way!" "Let them come!" he roared, and he swung again. The second blow was even harder. It widened the hole, showering the tile floor with splinters. "When they get here," he panted, "I'll already have what's mine." I could hear Tabitha laughing, a high-pitched, hysterical cackle from my bedroom. She was enjoying this. She was watching her husband destroy his own father's house. I closed my eyes, clutching the old phone to my chest. "Evelyn," I whispered, "give me strength, my love. Help me survive this." The third blow. It was aimed at the doorknob. The lock mechanism shattered. Darnell reached his hand through the jagged hole, his fingers fumbling for the lock. "I almost got it," he yelled to Tabitha. "Find something to tie him up with. We can't let him escape." Tie me up. The word hit me like a physical blow. My own son. He planned to tie me up, like an animal. The latch clicked. The door swung open, slamming against the wall. Dominic stood there, framed in the doorway like an apparition from hell. His face was beet red, slick with sweat. His hair was disheveled. The sledgehammer was still clutched in his right hand, hanging at his side. "Finally," he murmured, a twisted smile playing on his lips. He was breathing hard, his chest heaving. "Now," he panted. "We're going to do this the easy way, Pop. You're going to sit in that chair." He pointed with the hammer toward my desk chair in the bedroom. And you're going to transfer every single cent from that account to mine. No tricks, no lies, no games. I will not, I said. My voice was trembling, but the words were firm. You can hit me. You can tie me up. You can do whatever you want. But I will not reward this madness. I will not give you my money. Dominic raised the sledgehammer. My heart stopped. I was sure, in that second, that he was going to hit me. But instead of attacking me, he turned, and with a guttural roar, he unleashed all his fury on the bathroom mirror. The glass shattered, exploding in a glittering, terrifying rain. Shards fell like diamonds onto the tile floor. "Look what you make me do!" he screamed, his voice cracking. "This is all your fault. If you were a normal father, if you really loved us, we wouldn't have to go to these extremes." "Dom, hurry!" Tabitha appeared behind him. She was carrying the sheets from my bed, the ones I had put on clean just this morning. "Here's something to tie him up with," she said, her voice cold and practical. I looked in his wallet, found the bank cards. We just need him to tell us the pins and the security numbers. Dominic dropped the hammer. It clattered to the floor. He grabbed me by the arm. His grip was like a steel vise. He yanked me out of the bathroom, my bare feet skidding on the broken glass. "Get in the chair!" he snarled, shoving me. I stumbled, falling into my desk chair. My legs could barely support me. "Now," Tabitha said, moving in. "The passwords, Walter." I looked down at my hands. I was still clutching the old phone. The 911 operator was still on the line. I could hear her faintly. "Sir? Sir? Are you there?" Tabitha saw the phone. Her eyes, which had been on my face, darted down to my hand. "What is that?" she hissed. "His old phone! Dom! He's got his old phone!" Before I could react, she lunged. She wasn't human. She was a viper. She snatched the phone from my grasp. Her face went pale as she saw the screen. It was still on the call summary. 911, it read. "A call in progress." "You called the cops!" she shrieked, her face contorting in a mask of pure fury. "You called the cops on your own son!" "Give me that!" Dominic yelled, making a grab for it. "He called for help!" Tabitha was almost sobbing with rage. He... She looked at the phone, then at me, then at the hard tile of the bathroom floor. "No one is coming to save you now," she whispered, her voice suddenly terrifyingly calm, and with a furious downward motion, she threw the old phone onto the tile floor. It bounced once. It wasn't enough for her. She stepped forward and brought her heel down on the screen. A crunching sound. She stomped on it again, and again, and again, until the phone was nothing but a spiderweb of cracked glass and plastic. "There," she panted, breathing hard. "Your lifeline is gone. Now give us the passwords before your help decides to show up." My heart sank. My lifeline. My connection to the outside world. The officers who were 2 minutes out. Had they gotten the address? Did they know for sure? The line was dead. They were cut off. I was alone. "The passwords," Dominic repeated, his voice a low growl. He picked up the sledgehammer again, not to swing it, just to hold it. A reminder. I don't remember," I lied, my voice shaking. "Don't lie to me," Dominic said, taking a step closer. Tabitha was frantic, ripping the sheets. "We don't have time for this, Dom. Tie him to the chair. We'll find the passwords. We'll look through his papers." She grabbed my hands, yanking them behind the back of the chair. The rough cotton of the sheet bit into my wrists. As Dominic shoved me back into the seat, as Tabitha fumbled to tie a knot, I heard it. A distant sound. At first, I thought I was imagining it. A high-pitched wail cutting through the night. It was getting closer, louder. Sirens. I started to laugh. It was a crazy, choked, relieved sound. Are you hearing that, Dominic? I said, a smile spreading across my face, a smile that came from my soul. They're coming. They're coming for you. Dominic's head snapped up. He peered out the broken window of my bedroom. Cops! He cursed, his face going white. It's at least 5 patrol cars. They're turning onto the street. He turned on me, his eyes bloodshot, filled with a rabid, desperate fury. This is your fault. You ruined our lives. You ruined yourselves, I said calmly, as Tabitha's hands froze on the knot she was tying. You did this. You decided to become thieves. The sirens were deafening now. They were outside. Red and blue lights flashed, painting the walls of my destroyed bedroom in a sickening, flashing strobe. The sound of car doors slamming, men's voices shouting orders, footsteps running up my driveway. Police! Open the door! The yell came from the front of the house. Dominic ran back and forth, a caged, trapped animal. The back door? He hissed at Tabitha. We can't, she whispered, her face ashen. They've surrounded the house. There's no way out. And just then, the sound that had started this all, the sound I had only imagined in my nightmares, happened again. A deafening, explosive crash from the front entrance. My front door, the one Dominic and Tabitha had tried to kick in earlier, was thrown open with a professional battering ram. It slammed into the wall with a final shuddering crack. Police, hands up, everyone on the ground, now! Heavy, booted footsteps ran through the house. Authoritative voices yelling, clearing rooms. Dominic and Tabitha were petrified in my bedroom. 2 deer caught in the brightest, most unforgiving headlights. The sledgehammer was still clutched in Dominic's hand. The torn sheets were still clutched in Tabitha's, and I was still in the chair, the living, breathing evidence of their crime. In here, I yelled, with all the strength I had left. We're in the master bedroom. He's got a hammer. The footsteps immediately pounded toward us. In a second, 3 police officers appeared in my bedroom doorway. Their weapons were drawn, their beams bright. The scene they found left no room for interpretation. Drop the hammer! Down on your knees! Now! The lead officer bellowed. Hands behind your head! Dominic, his mind finally registering the red dots on his chest, dropped the sledgehammer. It clattered to the floor with a metallic clang that echoed in the sudden silence. Tabitha let the sheets fall from her hands as if they had burned her. Both of them, my son and his wife, slowly knelt on the floor, their hands behind their heads, as the officers moved in, handcuffs ready. A female officer immediately came to me, her gun holstered, her face a mask of professional concern. Are you injured, sir? She asked, pulling a small knife from her vest and cutting the sheets from my wrists. Her hands were gentle but firm, exactly what I needed. Not physically, I replied, my voice trembling now that the adrenaline was fading. But they tried to steal my money. They threatened me. They broke into my house. They tried to force me to transfer $50,000. As the other officers hauled Dominic and Tabitha to their feet, yanking their arms behind them and snapping the handcuffs on, I could see the reality of what they had done finally hitting them. This wasn't a family misunderstanding. This was a violent felony. Dominic looked at me, his face a mixture of regret, rage, in pure, pathetic desperation. He still believed, even now, that I was the one to blame. "Pop," he said, his voice pleading as they pushed him toward the door. "Pop, please, don't do this. I'm your son. Think about the grandkids. Think about the family." I stood up, my legs shaky, but my voice clear. "I'm thinking about the family, Dominic," I said, meeting his gaze. "That's why I won't allow you to turn into something your mother would never have recognized." Tabitha tried a different tactic. "Officer!" she yelled at the cop handcuffing her. "He invited us over for dinner. This is all a misunderstanding. My father-in-law, he has mental issues. He gets confused." The lead officer, an older man with tired eyes, didn't even look at her. He just gestured with his head toward the scene. "Ma'am," he said, his voice flat. The broken window, the destroyed front door, the shattered bathroom, the sledgehammer on the floor, and him tied to a chair with bedsheets. That's a whole lot of misunderstanding. They led Dominic and Tanisha out, a perp walk through their own father's ravaged home. The older officer, the one who seemed to be in charge, stayed with me. His name tag read Sergeant Miller. He looked to be about my age, with kind eyes that had seen too much. "Mr. Hastings," he said gently, "I know this must be extraordinarily difficult for you. Pressing charges against a family member, it's never easy. Are you sure you want to proceed?" I walked to the broken window in my bedroom. I could see them. They were putting Dominic in the back of a patrol car. For a moment, our eyes met through the glass. In his, I saw a silent plea, a last-ditch attempt at emotional manipulation. He expected me to cave. He expected my fatherly instinct to make me drop the charges, to save him from the consequences of his own actions. But I also saw something else in that look. I saw years of resentment, of greed, of an entitlement so profound that he believed he had the right to my life's work. I saw a man who had been capable of terrorizing, threatening, and assaulting his own father for money. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that if I didn't take a firm stand now, if I let him go, this nightmare would repeat itself, and next time, he would be successful. I turned away from the window and faced Sergeant Miller. "Yes," I said, my voice firm, hard, and clear. "I am absolutely sure. I want to proceed. I want to press all possible charges." 3 hours later, my house in Austin was finally silent. The police had left. The crime scene technicians, who had come to photograph the evidence and dust for prints, had finished their work. I was left alone. Alone amidst the wreckage that remained of my home and my life. The broken glass from the kitchen window crunched under my feet as I walked into the living room. The front door was just gone. They'd taken it as evidence, leaving a massive, dark, gaping hole covered by a sheet of plywood. My bathroom mirror was completely destroyed. The door had a gaping, jagged hole where Dominic had slammed the hammer. My desk in the bedroom was overturned, papers scattered everywhere from where Tabitha had desperately searched for my bank documents. It was as if a tornado had passed through. A tornado named Dominic. I sat on the edge of my bed, the one that still had the torn sheets they'd used to try and tie me up. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I allowed myself to cry. They weren't tears of fear or pain. They were tears of mourning. I cried for the son I had lost, the sweet, laughing boy who used to build sandcastles with me at the beach, the young man who, at his mother's funeral, had promised he would always, always take care of me. He was gone. The phone rang, jangling in the ruined silence. It was my new phone, the one they hadn't found, which had been charging in the kitchen. It was Mitchell, my younger son. "Pop, I just heard. The Austin PD called me." "My God, Pop, are you okay?" "Did they hurt you?" "I'm fine, son," I replied, though my voice cracked. "Physically, I'm okay." "I'm at the airport," he said, his voice tight with an anger I recognized. "My trip's canceled. I'm on the next flight. I'll be there in 3 hours. Don't touch anything. Don't clean anything. I want to see exactly what they did." He paused, and I could hear him breathing. He really did it, didn't he, Pop? He really tried." "Yes, son," I whispered. "He really did." When Mitchell arrived, it was nearly 4 a.m. The first thing he did was hug me, a hug so tight I thought my ribs would crack. He was taller than Dominic, leaner, more like his mother in every way. "I'm here, Pop," he whispered. "I've got you." But when he released me and stepped back, when he finally saw the state of the house, his expression changed. The loving son vanished, and the lawyer took his place. "Oh my God," he murmured, his eyes scanning the war zone. He walked from the plywood-covered front door to the shattered kitchen window, to my splintered bedroom. This is a war zone. Dominic did all this?" I told him everything. From the 9 a.m. phone call to the fake dinner, the demand for the money, the coercion, the threats against the grandkids, the fake transfer, the return, the sledgehammer, the police. Mitchell listened in silence, his jaw getting tighter and tighter, his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. When I finished, he sat down heavily on the sofa, the one Dominic had been laughing on just hours before. "Pop, there's something I have to tell you," he said, his voice grim. "Dominic, he came to see me 2 weeks ago, at my office in Dallas." "What? Why?" "He asked me to help him find a lawyer to challenge Mom's will." My blood ran cold. He told me he had. He told me you agreed with him." "That bastard," Mitchell spat. "No, I told him he was insane. I told him Mom was perfectly lucid and that he wouldn't stand a chance. I told him to get out of my office." Why didn't you tell me, Mitchell?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Because I thought I could reason with him," Mitchell said, rubbing his face. "I thought, he's my brother. I thought he was just angry, grieving. I thought he would eventually come to his senses. I never thought he was this desperate, or this evil." He stood up and took my hands. "I was wrong, Pop. I should have warned you. I should have been here. I should have protected you." "It's not your fault, son," I said, squeezing his hand. "Dominic made his own decisions." Mitchell shook his head, his lawyer face back on. "As your lawyer," he said, his voice all business, "I'm filing a restraining order, effective immediately. And as your son, I'm telling you, you will never let that lunatic near you or his grandkids ever again." The next few days were a blur of police statements, insurance adjusters, and contractors boarding up my life. Mitchell was a whirlwind, a force of nature. He had a private security firm install temporary alarms and new reinforced doors. Dominic and Tabitha were formally charged. Attempted robbery, aggravated assault, breaking and entering, destruction of property, elder abuse. The list was long. Their bail was set at $100,000 each. Exactly the amount they tried to steal, Mitchell noted with grim satisfaction. But a question lingered, poisoning the air. Why Why this? Why so violent, so desperate? The business failing. It doesn't add up, Mitchell said, pacing my newly repaired living room. Dom's firm was small, but it was stable. This smells like something else. A week after the attack, Mitchell got an email. It was from an anonymous, encrypted address. It's a tip, Mitchell said, showing me his laptop. From a concerned friend. It says Dominic got scammed, badly, put all his money and a lot of borrowed money into a bogus crypto scheme. Apex Astra. Ever heard of it? No, I said. It sounds like nonsense. Maybe, Mitchell said, his eyes gleaming. Or maybe it's the key. If he was scammed, he'd be desperate to replace the money before Tabitha found out, or before his creditors did. This was the false lead arc. We spent the next week and several $1,000s hiring a private investigator, a digital forensics expert, to trace this Apex Astra scheme. We followed the digital trail. It led to offshore accounts, to shell corporations, to a dead end. It's a ghost, the PI finally told us a week later. A complete fabrication. The shell company was registered to a P.O. box, and the P.O. box was registered to... You're not going to believe this. Try me, Mitchell said, his voice tight. A shell corp owned by Tabitha's uncle. Mitchell and I stared at each other. It was a plant, I whispered. A false lead, to get us looking in the wrong direction. To hide the real reason, Mitchell said, his face dark with fury. She's not just complicit. She's the ringleader, and she's still trying to manipulate us, even from jail. Furious at the deception, Mitchell stopped playing defense. He went on the offensive. No more PIs, he declared. This is personal. He used his legal resources, calling in favors, pulling records Dominic and Tabitha thought were buried. He pulled their credit reports, their bank statements, their cell phone records, and he found it. It wasn't a crypto scam. It was something older and uglier. Augusta, Mitchell said, walking into my kitchen 2 days later, a stack of papers in his hand. He's been driving to Augusta, Georgia, every weekend for 6 months. What's in Augusta? A casino, Mitchell said, his voice flat. And a loan shark operation that runs out of its back rooms. He dropped the papers on the table. Bank withdrawals, credit card cash advances. And then, a series of wire transfers from a known loan shark and a series of threatening, all-caps texts. He's not in debt, Mitchell said, his voice breaking with a rage I'd never heard from him. He's owned. He owes them. Pop, he owes them over $200,000. That explained it. The desperation, the violence, the midnight deadline. It wasn't an investment. It was a collection. They weren't trying to save their business. They were trying to save their skins. The revelation changed everything. This wasn't just a family matter. This was organized crime. We immediately turned all the evidence over to the Austin PD, who in turn contacted the FBI. This is bigger than we thought, Mr. Hastings, Sergeant Miller told me, his face grim. These are not nice people. A few days later, a call came to Mitchell's office. It was Dominic's newly appointed public defender, a young, overworked woman named Jenna Ballard. Mr. Hastings, she said to Mitchell, her voice tired. Your client, your brother Dominic, he's begging to see you. He says he has information about the threats. He says his family is still in danger. He's just trying to get out, Mitchell spat. Another manipulation. I don't think so, Ms. Ballard said. He's terrified. He's not faking this. He says the people he owes, they're threatening to hurt his family, his whole family, to send a message. He seems to think that means you and your father. We went to see him. FCI Bastrop, a cold, gray federal correctional institution. We sat in a cold, sterile visitor's room. Mitchell on one side of me, his briefcase on his lap, his jaw set. When they brought Dominic in, I barely recognized him. He was in an orange jumpsuit, 2 sizes too big. He'd lost weight. He had deep, dark circles under his eyes. His hands were shaking. But the most shocking change was the expression in his eyes. The arrogance was gone. The resentment was gone. All that was left was pure animal fear. "Pop," he whispered, sliding into the seat across from us, behind the thick glass. He picked up the phone. "Mitchell, thank you. Thank you for coming. I know I don't deserve it." "Start talking," Mitchell said, his voice cold. He'd already hit record on a device in his briefcase. Dominic took a deep, shuddering breath, and the story poured out. "It was Tabitha," he whispered, tears welling in his eyes. "6 months ago, she convinced me to go to the casino in Augusta. Just for fun," she said. "Just bet $200. His hands trembled. "But that place, it's like a drug, Pop. The more I lost, the more I wanted to bet, to recover. At first it was 10,000, then 20, then 50. Every time I lost, the loan sharks at the casino, they offered me more credit. Easy money, they said. Pay it back whenever." He covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking. When I finally realized what had happened, I owed $200,000. "And the threats?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "They started 2 months ago," he sobbed. First it was phone calls. Then they showed up at my job. Then they showed up at the kids' school." Dominic's eyes met mine, and what I saw in them broke my heart all over again. "Pop, they took pictures. They took pictures of Mason and Abigail leaving school. They sent them to me. They said if I didn't pay in 1 month, they would collect in other ways." The world tilted. My grandchildren, my innocent babies. Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice broken. "Why didn't you just tell me the truth?" "Because I was afraid," he cried. "Afraid you'd say no, afraid of what you'd think. And Tabitha convinced me it was better to just take it. That way," she said, "we wouldn't feel responsible if something bad happened." She planned it all, Pop. The dinner, the threats, all of it." "Dominic," Mitchell interrupted, his voice sharp. "Do these people, do they know where Pop lives? Do they know who he is?" I don't know," Dominic panicked. "They know I have family, but I don't know if they have names, addresses." "I got this," he said, pulling a crumpled piece of paper from his jumpsuit pocket. "Yesterday, another inmate. He has outside contacts. He passed it to me." He pressed it against the glass. It was a note, scrawled in rough handwriting. "Pay in 2 weeks, or we collect from your family. Send a message. We know about the old man. We know about the lawyer brother." Mitchell's face went white. He took a picture of the note with his phone. "This is authentic," he said, his voice grim. "The names they mention, I recognize them from the file. They're not bluffing." We left the prison and went straight to the FBI field office. We showed them the note. The detective in charge listened, his face hardening. Mr. Hastings, he told me, we will investigate these threats immediately. We'll coordinate with the prison. But in the meantime, I recommend you take extra precautions, change your routine, avoid being alone. He paused. Frankly, sir, I recommend you get out of Austin, temporarily, until we can roll these people up. What? What about my grandkids? I asked, my heart in my throat. We've already sent patrol cars to their school to talk to the principal, the detective said. We'll coordinate with Child Protective Services. They're safe, for now. But you're a target. That night, in my newly repaired house, a house that no longer felt safe, a house that felt like a prison, I made a decision. I called my brother, Bryce, my older brother, the one who'd moved to the Berkshire Hills in Massachusetts years ago. Bryce, I said, my voice blunt, I need to stay with you for a while. Warren, what's wrong? You sound terrible, I told him. I told him the whole sordid, unbelievable story. Bryce listened in silence. When I finished, there was a long pause. Come immediately, he said, his voice firm. I'll book you a flight. No, I'll come get you. I'm driving. I'll be there in 2 days. No, I said. I'll fly tomorrow. The next morning, Mitchell drove me to the Austin Bergstrom International Airport. In the car, he handed me a new, prepaid burner phone. This number, he said, is only known by me, and now by Bryce. Don't use your regular phone. Don't log into your email. Disappear. Mitchell, the kids. I'll take care of everything here, Pop, he said, his eyes hard. I'll handle the grandkids. I'll work with the FBI. I'll manage the prosecution. You just worry about being safe. You've earned it. Bryce's 2-acre property in the foothills of the Berkshire Mountains was everything my house in Austin was not. It was quiet. It was safe. It was surrounded by dense woods and fields that stretched to the horizon. My brother, a man I hadn't seen in 5 years, welcomed me with open arms and a shotgun leaning by his front door. You stay as long as you need, little brother, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. No one will hurt you here. I lived with Bryce for a month of chopping wood, walking in the cold, and learning to breathe again. And then Mitchell called the burner phone. Pop, he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. They got him. They arrested the entire organization, the whole lone sharking ring. With Dominic's testimony and the evidence from his phone, they dismantled the entire operation. The feds say the threats against our family are officially over. Does that mean I can come home? You can come back whenever you want, Pop, Mitchell said. But there's something else you need to know. He explained. Dominic, in exchange for his full cooperation and testimony, had pleaded guilty to all charges. His lawyer had negotiated a deal. 5 years, Mitchell said. 5 years in federal prison. 5 years. My grandchildren would grow up without their father. But maybe that was better. Maybe Dominic needed that time, needed it to reflect, to understand what he had become. And Tabitha? I asked. She got a shorter sentence, 18 months. But her parents... Pop, her parents are fighting for custody of Mason and Abigail. The world stopped. They asked me, Mitchell continued, his voice careful, if you would be interested in applying for temporary custody. Me? I was 68 years old. I was hiding in my brother's house. Yes, you, Mitchell said. Legally, you have the right to apply as a grandparent. And given the circumstances, given that you are the stable one, and that you were the victim of the parents' crimes, I think you have an excellent chance of getting it. The idea, the idea of raising my grandchildren at my age, it was terrifying, and it was exciting. What do you think about doing this? Bryce asked. He'd overheard the conversation, his face serious. I don't know if I have the energy, Bryce, I admitted. To raise 2 kids. Mason is 8. Abigail is only 6. They'll need so much. Love, stability, patience. Bryce put his hand on my shoulder. Brother, he said, his voice gentle. Do you think there's anyone else in the world who can give them more love than you? He was right. I picked up the burner phone. I want to apply, I told Mitchell. I want custody. I already started preparing the documents, my son replied, and I could hear the audible smile in his voice. I knew that would be your answer. 3 weeks later, I was standing in a family court in Massachusetts, officially applying for temporary custody of Miles and Amara. The judge, an older woman with kind, sharp eyes, reviewed my file. Mr. Hastings, she said, looking at me over her glasses. I see here, you were the victim of an attempted robbery by the father of these children. Yes, Your Honor. Are you sure? Are you sure you can separate that traumatic experience from your responsibility as a caregiver? I took a deep breath. Your Honor, I said, my voice firmer than I expected. What Dominic did to me, it was unforgivable. But these children are innocent. They are the other victims. They need stability. They need love. They need a safe home. I can give them those things. Temporary custody granted, she said, stamping the papers, for a period of 2 years, subject to periodic reviews. I walked out of the courthouse, my hands shaking, and immediately called Bryce. I got it, I said. I got them. They're coming to live with me. That same afternoon, we started looking for a house. Not a rental. A home. I took my $50,000, the blood money, as I'd come to think of it, and I used it. I put a down payment on a small 3-bedroom ranch house on an acre of land in Amherst, Massachusetts. Close to Bryce. Close to a good school. With a big yard where the children could play. 2 weeks later, Mitchell arrived. He'd driven all the way from Texas with Mason and Abigail in the back seat. He had prepared them, he said. Explained that they would be living with me for a while their parents sorted out some problems. I stood on the porch of my new, empty house as the car pulled into the driveway. When I saw my grandchildren get out of the car, my heart almost exploded. Mason. He'd grown. He seemed more serious, more mature than an 8-year-old boy should be. Abigail was hiding behind her brother, her enormous brown eyes full of confusion and fear. "Grandpa!" Mason shouted, and he ran. He ran toward me, his little legs pumping. I knelt, and he crashed into me. I hugged him so tightly I thought I would break him. Abigail approached more slowly, but when I knelt to her height, when I opened my arms, she threw herself into them, burying her face in my neck and starting to cry. Are we going to live with you forever, Grandpa?" she sobbed, her sweet little voice muffled. "You're going to live with me as long as it takes, my love," I whispered, tears streaming down my own face. "Need as long as you need, and we're going to be very, very happy together." A year passed. A year of beautiful, chaotic routine. I, Warren Hastings, at 69 years old, had learned to be a parent again. Waking up at 6 a.m., preparing breakfasts, making lunches, driving to school, soccer practice, piano lessons, homework at the kitchen table, reading stories before bed. It was exhausting, and it was the most energizing, life-affirming thing I had ever done. My new life, in my new home, had become the soundtrack of these small domestic symphonies. Then, one day, I received a letter. It was from FCI Bastrop, from Dominic. I almost threw it away, but I opened it. The handwriting was different, tighter, more controlled. Dear Pop, I know I don't deserve for you to read this, but I need to try to say some things. I've been in counseling here. I'm working to understand how I became the person who could threaten his own father. I'm not looking for excuses. I'm just trying to understand, so I can change. They told me you have custody of Mason and Abigail, that you moved to Massachusetts. At first I was angry. I thought you were taking them as revenge. But then I realized they are better off with you than they ever were with me. They always were. I know I don't have the right to ask for anything, but I want you to know I am voluntarily relinquishing my parental rights. I've already signed the papers. I want you to have permanent custody. I want you to adopt them. My children need stability. They need unconditional love. They need someone they can trust. That person is you, Pop, not me. I hope that someday, when I am a different man, you can forgive me. I don't expect it, but I hope. Give my children a hug. Tell them their dad loves them, and that he's working very hard to become someone they can be proud of. Someday. Your repentant son, Dominic Andrew Hastings. I cried after reading that letter. Not tears of forgiveness, not yet, but tears of relief. It was the first time he had taken complete, total responsibility. I saved the letter in a drawer. Maybe someday, when the children were older, they would want to read it. I looked out the kitchen window. My grandchildren, Mason and Abigail, my children now, were playing in the backyard. Bryce was with them, teaching Mason how to throw a baseball. Abigail was collecting flowers. 3 months ago, I was a terrified old man, hiding in a bathroom, while my son tried to rob me. Now I was a 69-year-old man, in a new life in a new town, who had just been given the 2 most important people in the world. I had survived the most painful betrayal imaginable, and I had emerged, not just intact, but transformed. I was no longer just a retiree. I was a guardian, a protector, a father. I had lost a son, yes. The son I'd known, the boy I'd loved. He was gone, but I had gained a family. I looked at the $50,000, the money that had started it all. It was gone, spent on this new life, on the down payment for this house, on the beds the children were sleeping in. It wasn't blood money, it was a foundation. I smiled, and for the first time since Evelyn died, it reached my eyes. I opened the back door and stepped out into the bright, cold Massachusetts sunshine. My life wasn't over. It had just been rewritten. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.